some students coming through, but yes, I'd love to go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Kathleen Diamond, Craig Buckstein, and Seamus Saheed for being here today. I really appreciate it. I'm Stephanie Rodriguez. I am an assistant professor in the Spanish and Portuguese department here at Rutgers, Newark, and I instruct the translation and interpreting studies program and courses that we have here. So most of the students that we have joining here today, they are in my Introduction to Translation Studies course. We have a few from Legal Translation and Interpreting, and then several that are joining from Global Studies. This is brought from ALC Bridge and also from Lives in Translation, the translation and interpreting program at Rutgers, Newark. And we have Kathleen Diamond here, who has been the founding chair of ALC Bridge since 2018, if that's correct. And this is an initiative launched to connect language service companies to universities, and it's with the purpose of preparing our students in the careers in language industry to connect with experts in the field and to ask the questions that go beyond the classroom. So we greatly appreciate Kathleen and this now 2-year partnership that we've had.
Yeah.
Yes, and for always selecting such interesting speakers. It really is such a gift for our students to be able to attend this virtually and hear from those that are near and also far about what it is to be in the language industry, what to expect, the challenges and the advantages to it. So thank you so much, Kathleen. I will pass it on to you now, and then I'll introduce our guests.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I want to give a huge shout out to all of you. My goodness, this is a great presentation, a great attendance, and it just gets us here at ALC Bridge completely motivated to spend this time this morning with you. But I'd like to recognize the two speakers today because they're two gents that are near and dear to me. We have worked together. We have, I think, maybe even competed against each other. We've volunteered together. We have spent a lot of really productive and warm and wonderful time together. Whether we agree or disagree, we always find this is a time that we need to be present for you and you students. I'm going to start today with Craig Buckstein. He's up in, I always love it. He used to tell me he lived in Hell's Kitchen. And I always thought, Hell's Kitchen, that's a hell of a place to live in. But it truly exists. It's real. And he has a great story to tell. And he has a lot of personal experience in the topic today, the overview of the language industry, because he's lived it all his life. And his father did, and I think his grandfather did. So he's pretty well prepared to talk to you this morning. So we'll start with him, but before we do that, because I know Stephanie's going to give some more information about the speakers, I'd like to recognize Seamus. Seamus is coming to us from San Diego, California, the land of delight. And when I told him we would meet 10 a.m. Eastern time, he didn't hesitate. He said, I'll be there. And I am thrilled to bring you Seamus today because Seamus, not only has he done amazing work in his own company, which he will talk to you about during his presentation, he has been the volunteer worker at the Association of Language Companies, creating and developing and bringing to us the ALC industry survey. And it's hot off the press, and he'll be able to talk to you about some of the highlights that are in that survey, which will, absolutely confirm to you that you're doing the right thing, staying in language services. So that's about all I needed to say this morning, Stephanie. I don't want to take any more time because we have a lot to give to the students today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kathleen. So I'd love to welcome Craig and Seamus, starting with Craig. Craig is the CEO of Geneva Worldwide, a global leader in language solutions. He is responsible for transforming the century-old staffing company into a flourishing language services company and has been instrumental in the many strategic shifts and pivots over his 22-plus year career. And over that time, it included developing the interpreting, translation, and transcription units into fully remote operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Under Craig's leadership, the company continually expanded its online capabilities and grows its remote interpreting to serve a rapidly changing world. He devotes time to the industry and the New York City business community through his board position on the Board of Governors for the 100-Year Association of New York. And he was president of the Association of Language Companies. So, welcome so much, Craig. I really appreciate you being here today. And we also have with us Seamus, who is a professional with extensive experience in business management, operations, acquisition, integration, and leadership. He currently serves as the Vice President of Interpreters Unlimited. Seamus has a proven track record of driving growth and enhancing operational efficiency within the organization. His expertise spans strategic planning, team development, and customer service excellence, all of which contribute to the company's mission of breaking down language barriers. As a seasoned professional in language service industry, Seamus is committed to fostering an inclusive and supportive work environment. And through his leadership style, he is characterized by transparency, collaboration, and relentless strive for excellence. He started his career as molecular biologist from UC San Diego, and he's actively involved in various industry associations, contributing to his knowledge and experience in the broader community. So, welcome to both of you, Seamus and Craig. We are delighted to have you here today and look forward to learning so much about you and your experience. So, welcome, and whoever would like to take it from here.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. That is so fantastic. And thank you for the applauses we're seeing. This is great. The topic that you gave us for today is overview of the language industry. Not a small topic, but we're ready for it. So I'm going to ask Craig to take the lead in our conversation this morning. Craig, you've got the mic.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, Stephanie, Seamus. Appreciate you all. I'm coming from Hell's Kitchen. That's why I've got my background over here. Otherwise, you'd see all the flames or my 20-year-old cat. We're a virtual company. I am located on 53rd Street, right in Manhattan, across the way, not too far from you all. But for the sake of you all, I got my background up. Let me tell you a little bit about our company, Geneva Worldwide, kind of through our lens and how we've adapted and grown through the language industry and how it's all changed. So you can hear our experience and open up to any questions you might have for us along the way, because it's been a journey. But a little bit about us. We're a third generation family owned business, and we were founded in 1903. So that's 121 years young. Don't feel a day over 120 years. And it's been a family business. My grandfather took it over during the Depression years. We were a staffing company, like Stephanie mentioned, and he was not collecting a paycheck. He was getting paid in stock, while my grandmother put our entire family by paying. She was a waitress, and she put three kids through school and subsequently after school while he was getting paid in stock, and eventually he took over the organization. So we were a staffing company, employment agency, getting people work in all types of industries here in New York City. It was full-time work, and then my father came in the business around the 70s, changed the model to the temporary staffing company because that was what the trend was. We were providing day laborers, we were providing chefs, all different types of skill sets. Anyone who needed a job, we were getting that. And we had a large immigrant community here in New York that also were bilingual. So some of the work we did was interpreting and translation, but a very small portion of it. And you fast forward to when I came in 25 years ago now, there was a very small bit of language service, and I didn't really want to touch the staffing component of everything. I went to school, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I wanted to study communications and do a little bit with language, and I figured, why not grow the language portion of the business? It made me feel good, and I thought that there was a market there to do things with. Um, so yeah, I'll give you a little more background about our company, but we started off as just an interpreting shop and a little bit of a translation shop. And we service all different industries, whether it's city, state, federal, municipal agencies. And then some of the big industries we hit otherwise are educational, healthcare, legal, and then a diverse set of multinationals. I'm celebrating 25 years on my internship, and I'm still here on my internship. It's been a long road, Along the way, I got my MBA because I needed to get outside of the world and understand what the business looked like outside of just inside the business. I became the ALC president, learned a lot from our colleagues, changed and adapted our business as I watched the shifts happen. And I'll try and describe how Geneva adapted itself and changed through what was going on then, and kind of parallels where we are right now, because where we've come and all the places that we've adjusted our business along the way were relative to what was going on in the world. Uh, Growth was driven by globalization. People wanted to sell products to people that didn't necessarily speak English, and there was an opportunity for us. And I saw that need, and I saw that opportunity to put our ability in language services to do something there. I mean, there was also a lot of changes in regulation, whether it was Title VI or a lot of local laws that changed where they needed to provide accessibility through a lot of different state funds for all different language accesses. And that's been increasing over the many years. So we were able to bid on a lot of local municipal contracts in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. We started to increase our breadth. We went to Missouri and California and Texas. And after a while, we were doing business in most states in some capacity through those competitive bids, as well as trying out some of our hand in the private world. And we were just shooting dice at everything. We were working with every different industry across mainly just face-to-face interpreting and document translation, because that's where the world was. And then around 9/11, important thing happened. The world kind of changed and the opportunities changed. And there was a lot of money being spent in defense and intelligence. And we were one of those companies that was on the GSA schedule that had the opportunity to participate in that and help a very panicked and nervous country take boxes and boxes of documents, hard copy, handwritten documents that were ransacked wherever, and audio files that were just appeared. They don't know what they were, and start working on transcription. So all of a sudden we started providing transcription services just out of the need that we saw that was changing, and our clients were asking for different things. And then all of a sudden we became a transcription shop in addition to interpreting and translation. And we said, well, how can we continue to evolve ourselves? How can we evolve with the industry? And we'd go to the ALC conferences and hear from our colleagues, and they're like, well, we're using CAT tools. That seems to be a way to help so we can streamline our translations and make sure we're doing everything consistently and provide more words of translation. So we introduced CAT tools. And linguists were scared. They were worried that, this is going to replace all the work that we're doing and the AIs are going to take over the entire world. But we've been working in this world for a very long time. And at scale, it's helped us do more work better, more efficiently. And there's still plenty of words that are coming out there for us to translate. So it hasn't replaced us then. And we saw a way for us to continue to expand our service offering through that. We started looking into over the phone interpreting and video remote interpreting because those seem to be ways that we could do the same service but differently. And our clients never took us up on it. We were working with the schools, which were very slow, the hospitals, law firms, the courts. These were the last places to really adopt some of the virtual models that we had, but we were ready. We'd had many companies and partners and training modules ready. Fast forward to March 15th, 2020, when COVID happened, and the virtual world completely changed everything. Our face-to-face interpreting line, which is the majority of our business, we were about 80% face-to-face interpreting, 20% translation and transcription. Face-to-face interpreting went to $0, which is an interesting thing for a language company to watch your business disappear. But at the same time, we're here in New York, we're in the epicenter. We just wanted to keep ourselves safe. We wanted to keep our people safe. So we wanted to check in on our clients and let them know that I know that you're hurting. I know that you're not back at your offices either. You're not even letting people into the hospitals right now. You're letting people into the hospitals, but you're not letting our linguists into the hospitals. They had changed that model, so they needed a solution. And then they started taking us up on our offer. They started allowing us to come in and train them on video remote interpreting and over the phone. And they started using more captioning and subtitling and cart services and accessibility services that we had. And we started to see all of our other lines of business start to increase, in addition to translation as well. That never really changed the need there. But I think the virtualization of the world, in addition to our services, became accessible when the schools, hospitals, courts, and the municipalities just had to jump headfirst into it and allowed us to kind of ramp up scale and change how we operate a business. So it's been a lot of shifts in a short amount of time. This is just 2020. Here we are in 2024, and that's a real new reality of this world. When Seamus talks about the industry and the industry survey, all of this data, this starts, it's 1 year back, but we could see all the growth along these virtual lines of business. And we'll talk about machine translation and it's increasing, and AIs, and that how more people are using those across their daily businesses. And I'm happy to talk to you about that. Some will need to talk over a drink because it's an interesting conversation and we're still living it and it's live. But one more thing as to what's just contributed to both growth and change, shifting refugee populations. Uh, Everything that you see on the news has a direct effect on Geneva Worldwide, Interpreters Unlimited, all of our people that operate in this space over here, and here in New York in particular, whether it's the border or wars displacing people, we find huge population shifts over here. And as the government continues to provide accessibility services, as well as non-for-profits and social service world, we find the need increasing in those areas, and us trying to find linguists in a world where there's less linguists. People are since retiring. They don't want to go face to face anymore. They don't want to move into this industry at all. They're looking to do something else. So I'm so happy that you're all continuing on your education path. There is more work than there is linguists. And I think that we have a bright future over here, but we are going to have to navigate some challenges. And if we expect the world and business to operate the same way, we won't be doing things the same way. But embracing the industry changes means working virtually. This right here would not happen several years ago. We would have to come there. Seamus would have to be on a very early flight to get out there to you. And it's great to have you and see you, but we could do this and have so many more meetings. But I could also hire people from around the world. You could work with us from anywhere. I used to have 32 full-time people in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. 32 full-time in-house, 1,000 freelance linguists. That was our model. Fast forward to COVID. Now I've got the same 32 people, but less than half of them are actually in the New York tri-state area. They're all over the world. Majority here in the US still, but we were able to take advantage of a totally diverse group of people, which increases our ability to have better conversations, take advantage of time zones, different pay scales to ramp up and scale services. And I think that's been a blessing, but also something to watch out for as an ongoing trend, right? When you look at the industry survey and it says many people are looking to outsource certain things or add more international team, that's certainly something that we're aware of. We see our competitors and friends doing it. We see the value in it, but we also need to understand that we need to keep workers here and working with the people in the United States and incentivize that and make sure there's a plan for that. I'm rambling. I apologize. I've got a lot on my plate over here, and I'll answer anything that you want to know later on. Let me just get through a little bit of AI because I know that you're all interested in that. Right now, AI is a tool. It's just a tool in our arsenal for now. It saves time. It creates the ability to do a lot more work, and it just increased accessibility options for our clients. And I don't think it'll replace linguists right now, but linguists who are using the technology will definitely have an edge, and it will replace linguists who are not able to use this technology at all. It's that same old adage, but replace it right now. The linguists that are using the technology will replace those that are not. And it will absolutely change the way we work, and it will eliminate many jobs across many sectors, not just our sector, many sectors. When all of the AI has figured out language, so many jobs disappear. It's not so much an existential problem for language service companies, it's an existential problem for the working people here in the United States and worldwide. So many of these jobs become automated. What are we going to do about that? For now, it's our job just to understand the tools, better educate ourselves and our client and the industry. We come to industry events, we talk about it. It's changing every single day. The use cases, a few months ago are not the few use cases right now. And it's so important for you students that are here trying to get into this field, understand the world that you're in right now, playing with these technologies, playing with Chat GPT, playing with Claude and Midjourney, and everything else that's coming out right now, getting in front of that and understanding that these tools are real and they're completely available commercially to all of you. It's absolutely in your interests to understand them and be able to play with these technologies because we are. We're using them for our internal communications. We help craft emails. We use it as our therapist. We use it as ways to battle test some of the strategic conversations we're looking to have with clients. Or if we're going to have an interview with someone or we're trying to sell or pitch something, we'll say, this is what we know about the client and here's the way we're going to pitch it. Does this make sense? Or to have more streamlined RFPs. Or just in the machine translation world, people come to us with already things already translated, and we wind up doing cleanup, right? Editing in a post machine translation world has already been here for a while now, and our clients are using AI. They're coming in the door in the front saying, "We've used AI. How can you help us? We want to use AI. Is there a place for us?" And it's kind of up to us to understand what that looks like and be able to give them the expert advice so that they can get the best product they want. We're not going to do things the way that we have been doing them, and it's kind of a moving target right now. So we stay informed through industry publications like Slater and Common Sense Advisory. Certainly encourage you all to check those out. And coming to events like this and just talking with other people in the industry is a huge opportunity for you all. And of course, moving your career along, just meeting people like us. This is how we're able to connect with you all and get you in the door or pair you up with people that we hear of. I have plenty of friends and colleagues that are looking for people, whether it's interns, project managers, accounting people, RP sales. We've got all different people across our worlds that we're looking to staff up for. Why not work with the people that are in this industry, want to take this forward, have education in this, and have an interest? There's just a missing connection between what we're doing and what you're all studying. And it's so great to get us in the room together, but know that there's industry events and other places that you can put yourself throughout the year that would totally help in your career goals and understanding where to place yourself in this.
Thank you, Craig. Take a breath.
All right.
Goodness me, you can. Whew.
Sorry, I'll go forever.
Oh no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Students, we didn't even really give you any sort of background. We're talking about the language services industry, which is up in the billions. And thankfully, we have a Seamus coming in now, and he's actually going to give you some data that you can work with. I think that Craig has showed you that it's an exciting place. We need you. We want you. And so I think without further ado, I'm going to say, Seamus, can you give us some facts, please? What are we talking about, this language services industry?
I sure can. Craig, if I were getting into the industry today, I'd be a little scared after what you shared. Uh, but then I realized, you know what? We've all had our fair share. And for those that are here today, don't get scared. Don't let anything that we're sharing with you freak you out in any capacity, because it's all par for the course. This is business, and no business is a walk in the park, unless that is literally your business. There's the one thing that you've heard Craig say about almost 24 times, and I say that positively. I'm going to share the same words about at least 24 times as well: change and adaptation. If there's one thing to walk away from this, is to understand something that a boss shared with me. As Stephanie had mentioned early on, my career started off in the biotech industry. I was pre-med for about 15 minutes. Went into the biotech industry because I didn't want to go back to med school, or I wanted that one break year, which has ended up being 25 years. When I jumped into business and when I jumped into the industry, at the time, my boss was a 40-year-old Harvard MBA, used to run GE Medical Devices, and just took over as CEO of, at the time, only $1 billion company. Fascinated by the guy, so let me go talk to him. Doing exactly what you're doing here today, I did in a non-virtual world, because that didn't exist at that time. I'm aging myself. And so 3 weeks in advance, set up a time to meet with the guy, and I said, look, give me some advice, help mold this. He says, well, understand the only thing constant in life is change. Number one. I said, okay, understood. I said, give me a good book to read. He goes, one of the best business books of all time, Dr. Seuss's The Places You Will Go. And I said, interesting. Never looked at it in that context. Fast forward 3 weeks, my specialty sales department was laid off, and I was no longer employed by that company. So, case in point, uh, talking about the industry survey, group between Craig and myself, having started in the industry at times where some of the most challenging times in the economy and in the country, post 9/11 world, then 2007-8 recession. And again, don't want to scare you with all that stuff. But again, we've had to adapt, navigate, change, all those buzzwords that Craig mentioned and that you're going to hear me mention here. The ALC survey, talking about that. This brings numbers and metrics to this industry. Let's set aside language and the bridging of the language barrier, or the breaking of the language barriers. Put that in a separate bucket for the moment. Let's not talk about that for the moment. Let's focus on the business aspect of what we do and how we do. Much of this industry, it was built by those that do. And then there are those that came into the industry from those that don't. Craig is a bit of that hybrid individual who came from a family that did, and now he doesn't interpret, he doesn't translate directly. I don't think you do, Craig. But now he's fully focused on managing and running his company. Similar boat. What does what I did have in how does this impact the industry? What does this have to do with the language services? I just remember so vividly going into a first due diligence meeting nearly 20 years ago to acquire Interpreters Unlimited, and with a coffee in hand and with the smile of skepticism, and then coming out with the smile of, seriously? For every $2 that I charge my customer, I make between 80 cents to $1. And these are the metrics that our industry survey shares. So I became active with the industry with the ALC back in 2007, my very, very first conference in Providence, Rhode Island, where not only did I have an opportunity to meet the wonderful Kathleen, but of course Craig and Craig's father at the time. And I remember those vivid introductions. Wonderful individuals, and Craig, tremendous respect to you and the family for what you have done and what you have built, and God willing to continue with the generations to come. The founder of this survey is someone who Kathleen mentioned early on, Randy Morgan. He was the founder of the survey, and he only started really 2007, 6-7 is when the ALC started. I believe he started this within a couple years following. And it was, and I can say this with confidence, the first survey to benchmark KPIs in our LSP space, language service provider space. You're going to hear me say KPIs quite a bit, key performance indicators. And it helped bring validation to our respective and collective business practices. The ALC started as a group within the ATA, the American Translator Association. They didn't have the voting capability. They didn't have the budget because they were just a division. So they wanted to have their own deal. And they got charter members, and I believe Craig is one of those charter members off the ground to help get it off the ground. The group got together to learn about each other's experiences and how they can all work together. Well, then they realized, great, we could talk about all the stuff that we did, what could we do better, different, etc. And for those that are familiar with the physicist Kelvin said, what is not defined cannot be measured. What is not measured cannot be improved. What is not improved is always degraded. That is why this survey is so important, because it brings numbers. It helps brings KPIs that we can all use. It started off as an anonymous survey to learn and measure, and especially when most of the industry came from academia. The value we were adding was disregarded. And this was the beginning of establishing standards for the industry. It professionalized what we were doing. Look, when presenting numbers, it's about as dry as you can imagine. So we try to make the survey presentation fun and entertaining. So let me start off with what Craig ended with, which is AI. Like, AI has been thrown around so much over the last 2 years, from ChatGPT to now a robot that you could buy for $20,000, $30,000. I mean, It has evolved quite a bit. So let's start off with AI. When we first had the discussion of AI 2 years ago, a year ago rather, in 23 based on 22, only 11% of companies in our language space, in our industry space, were doing anything with it, whether if it was early experimentation, implementing it as part of their business practice, operational practices, or actually using it for something customer facing. As of last year, in 1 year's time, we went from 11% to over 30% using it in some capacity. In just 1 year, you get 3 times the adaptation. I don't know of any other tool or concept that has seen that degree of growth in 1 year. So I think, as Craig mentioned, there's about 101 different ways that it can be utilized. We talk about the survey itself. We talk about profitability. Ultimately, when you're starting a language service company, why are we doing this? We're in this for the business, right? Of course, there's the 30,000-foot view of what we're doing and what the impact we're having in the communities that we serve. And we are doing this as a business. We are doing this to put food on our table, on the table of our team members, of our staff, and of the thousands of linguists that Craig and I contract with. And I'm sure Craig can share similar metrics, but on a weekly basis, we provide a paycheck, or now direct deposit, to roughly 500 to 700 individual linguists on a monthly basis throughout the country. Craig, I'm sure, does something very similar. So the impact we have, the business aspect of what we have, puts food on the tables of thousands of individuals on a monthly basis. So that's what I want to bring the focus on. So I'm going to end with a metric here, with a number here that we can hopefully, Craig can provide some further insight and share some more on, or add to, which is at our bottom lines. So when we take a look at our industry, with the outliers of Craig having been in business for 100+ years, Interpreters Unlimited, by the way, we've been in business for about 54 years. We didn't start the company. We bought the company nearly 20 years ago. Both my father and myself came into the industry. We knew nothing about it, absolutely nothing about it. After all was said and done, the average company revenue is just over $6 million. The average company tenure is just under 20 years. But every conference we go to, we meet companies that have just started, that are just getting their beginnings. We had a dear colleague who only joined the ALC, I'm referring to Diane, who only started her company just a few years ago and was just received a wonderful award. And her first award of that, which God willing will be the first of many. But today, when we take a look at our association, we have an average revenue of just over $6 million, with an EBITDA of pushing 18%. So if we do that math, ultimately, why we are in this industry? Well, it's for the bottom line. So with an average company tenure of just under 20 years, average revenue of just about, it's actually 6.4 million, you're looking at well over $1 million of bottom line dollars. Group, that's after we're paid. Okay, so I'm not telling you you're going to make $1 million doing this, but as you build your business, this is ultimately why we're in business. With that, I'll shut up for a few moments, and Kathleen, Craig, help steer the ship.
Well, actually, Seamus, these are students that we're talking to, and I think they're actually getting themselves prepared to come work in our industry. So would you please talk a little bit about what the survey found in terms of the range of jobs that we have to fill? That would be super, I think. Because we heard from Stephanie, we heard from Stephanie that we've got intro to translation. We have students that are here for global studies, and then also some legal, I think, translation and interpreting. So could you sort of talk about what our companies look for in global talent?
Absolutely. So let's start off with talent in and of itself. Talent right now, and has been, especially post-pandemic, shortage of. Just a tremendous shortage of talent. So much so that I think I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure Craig can say something similar. Starting from the interpreter linguist level, there used to be a time when we could post an ad, whether it be on Indeed, Craigslist, whatever it may be. At that time, the bridge didn't exist. Otherwise, we would have listed it on Bridge. That you could get 100 resumes for Spanish interpreters overnight. And a solid 60, 70% of those would be good, qualified individuals. That is no longer the case. So there's a consistent need for qualified linguists, period. Number one. Number two, middle management and project managers. We were right now, if it weren't for some of the offshore options that are out there within our industry, I would be hard pressed to find individuals that have that expertise. Now, we've kind of come through a full circle from our mindset saying we need to be onshore. Then post-pandemic, you know what, we have no choice but to go offshore. But now we've experienced that, and now many want to come back onshore. So domestically, we have a shortage for project managers. Now let's move up the corporate ladder. Let's go up to a director level. That's almost always going to be a domestic onshore. Not only onshore, but a role that you want right in your own office. That's usually not a position that, I mean, we do have someone remote, but she's only about an hour and a half away. And I apologize for the noise in the background. It's dogs, not mine. So upper management at a directorship level. And then, of course, as you go to the executive level, both Craig and I are members of a group called Vistage. And Vistage is a CEO peer group. And one of the things that come up often is trying to find a senior salesperson or a C-level individual, a CFO, a COO. So much so that fractional chief positions are in demand because no one can find a qualified individual, a solid individual to be in one place and one thing. So when our members were surveyed, those were all of those positions, project management or linguist, project management, directors, and C-level were all positions that were in need.
Thank you.
So, and that covers really almost every position within a single organization.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Seamus. And I think the point we've been trying to make consistently across our webinars for ALC Bridges is that, yes, of course, we need linguists, which mean we need people who are actually fluent, not only fluent in a foreign language or a second language or a third language, but also able to interpret and translate, separate skills, as we understand. But what we also are trying to convey to students like yourselves is that our companies need people who just simply are passionate about language, have families who speak language, whatever, may or may not be linguists for us, but who can work in technology, who can work in sales even, because it's super cool to have someone who understands language go out and sell for you. And Stephanie has, and if you don't, Stephanie, I'll send it after this webinar, that wonderful graphic that we've put together. If you can share that with your students, do you need me to send it again? You know, it's the peaks, the wonderful graphic that shows the numbers of different positions that a student can come into a company and go through, hiking down, up and around hills and valleys. And it's a great tool for you to take a look at when you're thinking about, well, let me see, maybe this industry is good for me, even if I'm not absolutely a linguist. And I'll take a second for Craig to maybe comment on some of the talent that he's looking for, aside from interpreters and translators.
Oh,
Yeah, just to echo, yeah.
Sorry, Craig, one thing I do want to mention, headcount growth, average growth for ALC companies was 13%.
Excellent.
And so I wanted to share that hard number, that growth across all roles, 13%.
Thank you.
Yeah, just want to echo what Seamus had mentioned about the linguists. There certainly was a decline across the board after COVID, for very good reasons, and I think that need is very much still there. So if you just want to be in the language portion of it, there's still the need for it, and we are looking for the professionals. We need a feeder league to get them back into the pipeline over here because we've noticed the pipeline has changed. We used to have a fill rate of 97% of our work, and it went down to 88% through COVID, which we've been trekking back up through intense recruitment efforts. So all of that has changed and shifted since COVID, and it's ongoing. And it's just it's a different place. Where are we reaching people, and what's the message, and how do we get people to understand they can come back and there's value in this industry and there are jobs over here. But also, when I look at all the different work that we have, certainly project managers on the translation side, we just hired 4 more over the last few weeks to scale up for a project that we've got going on right now. We're always looking for account managers and account executives to be the people to liaise with our clients in the most difficult ways to interface, right? It's no longer, they're not coordinators, they're not dispatchers. The mind has to change. The world has to change for people that want to get on that side and do coordination. It's more, it has to be account management. People and peopling are the most important skills that you continue to learn if you don't want to focus on just the language side. The ones that are going to succeed and do the best in our industry when you come in are the ones who can people the best. So if language is your thing, great, total place for you. If you're coming into the corporate world, people that can work the best with each other, get the best out of their teams, rise up and be leaders, be the managers, be the directors, those are the real shining rocks that will never get replaced by technology. The people that are doing the most to get the most out of people are so valuable. And we go to recruiters just to look for those people. But understanding the language, the industry, working with people, and having a track that focuses that direction is certainly a great way to future-proof opportunities if you want to get on the business side of the language industry. And of course, we're always looking for recruiters and contract managers and sales, business development people is a lead place for us. You name it, we got it.
Thank you so much. I think, Craig, I will absolutely take that, and I absolutely will credit you for it. People and peopling. I think that's just wonderful. Stephanie, we have about 15 minutes here, and we certainly would like to hear from the students. We could keep talking, but I think let's open it up and see what the students would like to hear more of or less of, or what people are thinking.
Okay, perfect. So I encourage students, you can unmute, you can put your video on, or you can write it into the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. We have one student here in the chat that's mentioned, what is a CEO peer group? So maybe giving clarification on that, if you don't mind.
I could
That's
add
neat.
to, okay, go,
No,
James.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, a CEO peer group is a way for us to get business therapy in addition to our normal therapists. But it's a way for us to get in the room with CEOs that aren't in the language service industry. So we come to the ALC for places where other C-level and executives from the language industry are together, and we have our own therapy there. But a CEO executive group would be people from accounting, retail, finance, law firms, marketing, every other industry. They have their own shops. They're doing their own things. They have a whole different set of challenges. We sit around together for a few hours. We workshop what our business problems are, and they help us navigate our challenges through their lenses. They're still working with people. They're still managing their occupations. And also, they're great to battle test ideas. We're kind of stuck in our world, stuck in our little language service bubble. It's great to hear how other industries are tackling certain problems, and it's a safe space for other CEOs to get together and workshop their opportunities and problems together, and also create alliances and valuable learnings. But there's also levels down of mentorship and partnering too. There's peer coaching, executive coaching. Vistage has a trusted advisor group for people that aren't C-level, that are just people that are in sales, that are in marketing, that are in smaller sets and lower levels that you can meet with and network. It's just a networking group outside of this, and a way to have your own therapy with people outside of your industry. And we value getting out of the office, getting out of the virtual room, and meeting people outside of our industry to help give us some breadth as to what's going on.
Yeah, and you know what, on that, Craig, look, I've been a big proponent of Vistage, but let's put that name aside for the moment. A CEO peer group, it's trusted, and it's confidential. So I'll give you a great example. During COVID, during the weeks, the March 15th through probably into early July of 2020, Craig, along with about three or four other, no, almost half a dozen people, we all connected period almost every week on a conference call, because we were all Vistage members in other cities, and we were all talking about what our groups were doing and how we were implementing that. So that's a great example of that. So and it's confidential. So if Craig were to share something with me, it's not, I'm not going to use it beyond that conversation. I'm not going to apply it to have some sort of a competitive advantage. These are just things to help manage our business and stay afloat, or to navigate problems then or now. So that's really what a peer group is. No different than how you would envision a peer group, in whether it's an academic peer group or something within your own circle.
Thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you both. Any other questions from students?
Thank you, Oscar. I see also Seamus has included a link here, and also a shared image for you to check out. So I've saved that, and I'll include it on our Canvas page, but I encourage more questions on that. Actually, as a follow-up, I was wondering if you had any either peer groups or organizations, associations that you recommend for, aside from ALC Bridge, but that you would recommend for students to join at this time?
Absolutely. Who wants to start? ATA, obviously, the American Translators Association, is an absolute must. You want to add to it, Craig?
Yeah, ATA, certainly going on to Gala, Globalization and Localization Association, just seeing what they're posting. It's good content, it's relevant to the world. If you're interested in interpreting, there's the National Association of Judicial Interpreters, NAJIT. There's IEC for conference interpret. Is IEC conference interpreting? There's a lot of associations specific to translation and interpreting, and there's local chapters. Like over here in New York, we have the New York Circle of Translators. I don't know what the New Jersey version is, but there are, and it's on ATA. You can see the smaller local chapters that are having those type of meetings, and it's a good place to get in front of them and say, what are the other local places that we're all running besides, this place. I think the ATA is a great resource to point you to other groups that are local.
And I would add, excuse me, I would add localization,
Oh yeah, Loc World.
Loc World, right. And women in localization, I think, is another one.
TAUS, Translation Automation User Association, if that's something, it's how they're using the technology, but certainly something we keep an eye on.
Go ahead.
And let's go up the view a bit. So going from a bird's eye view, the three others that I would recommend, or one of the three others I would recommend to give more of an overview, overview of the industry and trends, and so forth. One, of course, is the ALC. Definitely go take a look at their site. Take a look at some of the events, some of the webinars. They might be a little bit too micro, but just getting an exposure to what those topics are will show it from the business aspect of our industry. The other two, next one is Slater. Slater is who we worked with to help develop the industry survey in and of itself. Again, Slater does a great job of identifying trends, identifying uh, uh, things that are working, things that are not at a macro level. So when I say macro level, they're talking about something that one company, two companies, three companies are moving towards. They'll talk about these companies have spent this much in this technology. These three companies sold to this company. So it helps provide more of a macro view on the industry. And then lastly, and in addition to Slater, is a group called NIMSD, and I can never say that properly.
ND NIMSY NDM
NIM.
IZ.
Well, we'll put it in the chat here
Yeah.
momentarily. NIMSD, Common Sense Advisory, and Slater are three that actually go out and do surveys and do research within the industry. So pick a topic. Pick a topic that you want to learn about and get some additional insight on from a true statistical perspective. These are groups that generate reports based on their research. So both when we start off at the micro level at the ATA Gala, those that do, all the way to those that from a ownership management perspective.
Oh, we have a very good question. Thank you, Seamus. We have a very good question in the chat. Let's see. Oops, I just lost it. Does anybody see it? Can you all see it?
I,
Do you see it?
I did see it pop up, and it was about COVID and what we did during that time. Let me.
Yes, yes.
During COVID, how did you make up from the loss of employees? And have you done anything other than recruitment to make up for the loss? Greg, do you want to start off on that one?
Yeah, that was a very tough time for us, obviously, having our interpreting go down to zero. We kept our people on for months, and we didn't furlough anybody for a long time while business had went down to zero. We were just training them up. We were figuring out how to educate and just saying, just to keep butts in seats and make sure that everyone still had a job and some security. Even though the business went down to zero, I was not comfortable with that, and we really just tried to just educate ourselves and figure out how we could work on trainings to get ourselves right when the world turned again. We wound up furloughing a few people because the federal government had a great plan where people would get topped up to their regular dollar and cent for a certain amount of time. And we said, great, we can let people go. They'll get the same paychecks without adversely affecting them. And we actually wound up bringing people back when the business came back. So really, it was a waiting game. We were fortunate at the time that dollars and cents were coming in through PPP, which financially kept us whole. And we were all, one, being psychologically safe, having a world where people could come and know that they still had a job, but also learning other skills and trying to bring things to the table so we could educate ourselves and our clients on what a virtual world might look like, and also virtualizing our operations. We'd kind of done that before. We kind of used Teams. We'd had a few intermittent day or two over the course of the year where we tried remote, but we need to become a virtual organization. And you could say that those few months while the things were bad were a place for us to cleanse ourselves and be born anew. And then business started coming back through over the phone and through contact tracing of all places. We were able to keep ourselves together by being the one who was providing contact tracing through the worst of the pandemic. And then business started to come back. I hope I answered it. I didn't see what it was, but
Thank you.
somewhere there.
It was a great question. Seamus, go ahead.
Very similar story from our side. Very similar path from our side. We took the only different approach that we took at the end, Craig, is that we implemented the Jim Collins good to grade A, B, C players and team. So we hired back A's and B's and we found alternatives for C's because we were struggling to stay profitable, literally.
Yeah.
So we had to find creative ways to do that. So when we realized, was that person really the best person for our team? So admittedly, we did take that as an opportunity to put, just as you said, Craig, peopling, putting the right people in the right places, getting the right people on the bus.
Thank you so much. I just want you students to know that these gentlemen, as stellar as they are, they do represent our industry. There's tremendous kindness and good feeling in the work that we do, and we share it with the people that we work with, just sort of naturally, I think.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Seamus and Craig. I see we have one more in the chat. We have time for one more. And I see that this is more as to language development and what you're looking for in terms of language requirements. So this is from a student that said that their native language or their dominant language would not be English. So for in those situations, what would you recommend? And if there is, where can they start? Is there language improvement with experience and how much time? I know this is a very subjective question, but of course, if you have any recommendations or any feedback to that, or maybe even if additional, I can add on to that one, if there are any sectors that you think are flourishing at the moment.
Well, I'd like to start off with that one here is don't let that be a hindrance in any capacity. The basis of our industry started with exactly that. With exactly that. So don't let that be a hindrance, or don't even just take that out of your, I say this respectfully, just take that out of your mind. Uh, it's okay. It's not a thing for English to not be your native language uh, as a barrier to start. That's not even a thing. In fact, it probably gives you an edge and an understanding of what it means to have language services. So I want to start off with that, Craig, Kathleen, please, but don't even let that be, uh, don't consider that a barrier. It's quite the
It's
opposite.
certainly it's not something that will hold you back. And the technology and the tools are there to help too, right? We have people that are non-native English speakers, and they're able to use AI to be like, can you help clean this email up to me so it sounds good for our clients? I want it to be at this register. These technologies are wonderful resources just for that, and they're ways to get the same great people on board. They're able to use their language skills and their cultural understanding, and now they've got the tools to help clean up their communications that are only getting better and better. So one, I just say continue to use the tools internally, externally, and whatever those are. And then, of course, if you're looking to increase your language skills and competency, I don't have the specific recommendations there, but always, always looking to add better language skills or something to look out for. And I don't have the specific program, but certainly for your own self, if that's what you'd like, then keep going down that path too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really encouraging for students. And yes, we welcome in any language pair to certainly explore that and know that there is room in the industry for them. So thank you both. Um, and I have one more here, if that's all right, if we have time for
Yeah.
this.
Thank
Um,
you.
so was a career in language or language business always something that you wanted to do from the beginning, or was it something that came about through the years of schooling, or just a spark of interest? So I think more of what was the motivation? What started it?
Okay. I think all three of us can take this one. You go first.
For me, I saw the staffing world and I didn't like that. And I liked the language service world that was presented in front of me. It was a small bit of our business and I saw an opportunity. And to be honest, it made me feel good. I liked what we were doing. We were providing social service work. We were providing mission critical work that I said, you know what? My friends are in finance or in accounting. This is something that I can feel good about. And I've never stopped feeling good about the work that we're doing. We absolutely make a difference. And when things don't get right, I absolutely take that personally and I take it to heart because I know we have an impact on people's lives, livelihoods, or opportunities to succeed, or even, their freedoms, or their health. So I think over the years, meeting wonderful people in this industry like Kathleen and Seamus and saying, wow, these are people that I want to associate with. This is an industry that I see that's growing and thriving, and I feel good about it. Those are all things that connected over time. And again, this is year 25 of my internship. So eventually I'll find out what I want to do with my life. But for now, it's just the course that I'm running and I'm enjoying it.
Thank you, Craig. Seamus, I want to hear from you, and then I'll tell my story briefly.
Wonderful. Well, group, I will be the first to say it that what what I wanted to do was be in business. Uh, in I had a series in my post college in my biotech world. I had a series of bad bosses, bosses that if today would be companies would be canceled up and down, left and right, from experiencing, I don't like saying it, but from mild discrimination, various levels, to horrible bosses that I have promised that I will never become. And I can say that amongst my colleagues in the association, I can't see anyone like this. Um, so when in 2007, parallel, my father started a company, took it public, and sold it. So for us, business, doesn't matter what, was in our blood and was something that was ingrained in us. So take his transition point and my transition point where I took in 30-day span, in 30 days, I got married, took a 60% pay cut, moved my wife, she lived in England at the time, moved out of my parents' home, and started brand new at a new company that we had just acquired, which is Interpreters Unlimited. So being in business is something that I always wanted to do. Language was not something that I had ever considered until 2006.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that is so fantastic. If you'll allow me a couple of minutes, I actually am the proud recipient, I guess I should say, of a master's degree from the University of Florida in 16th century French literature. Useless on the marketplace, in the marketplace. So when I came out with this wonderful learning and wonderful experience, there was really only one kind of job that I could aspire to, and that was teaching. I have been around a few years, and the concept of a language services industry just wasn't percolating yet. So I thought, well, I'll just be a teacher. So I tried being a teacher. It was okay being a teacher, but it just wasn't, I just knew there was something else that I personally wanted to do. And I had a little bit about what Seamus is talking about. I had some feeling about business, even though I had no training. I came from absolutely no experience with business, but I knew how to do a budget, and I liked money, and I liked seeing how it worked. So I thought, well, if nobody will hire me, and it was looking like that was going to be the case after several years out of college, I decided that I would just create my own company. And I did. So I created Language Learning Enterprises, founded it, of course, as a language instruction school in Washington, D.C., and built it over the years to a multi-million-dollar company that provided all sorts of services, including being pioneers in over-the-telephone interpreting services. And so it was my life. And I went so happily from the classroom into the boardroom and have never looked back, but am happy to have now, today, so many opportunities for students to use language skills and combine them with just about anything else you love. So I think that's our story, Stephanie, and we're over time.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate this. I think it sparked a great interest in our students and really kicked off the speaker series CHOP. So I really appreciate Kathleen for just always partnering with me and bringing experts to our students and bringing your expertise to our students. I truly am very grateful. And Craig and Seamus, I loved hearing the stories. I loved hearing how you came to where you are. hearing the challenges, the changes, the trends. I think this is all really important to give our students the full map of what it is to be a translator, what it is to be in the language industry. So greatly appreciated. If we have questions that come after, I'll make sure to send them your way if that's all right. I've shared all the links that you've mentioned with our students. I've also included it on the Canvas page. I'm recording here, so I will go ahead and stop recording, but I will also